Okay, here's what I know so far. Make sure this is working. Yep. So this right here is the PPU viewer. This shows which tiles are being loaded ahead and behind you. So Zelda 2 keeps 2 pages loaded at all time worth of information, but not 2 pages. It just loads 1 column ahead of you as you walk. So you can see with Beakula, you'll see right here, as we nudge forward, this double column right past the window, when it turns red, that means it's looking in that area and it finds Beakula and it spawns him. And the interesting thing is, if you nudge yourself just a little bit forward, see, it spawned all at once, and this is how far we are. Our shield is just before this crack. On the other hand, if you go really quickly, and I'll go a frame at a time here, you can see 1 frame gets the first half of the window, second half, and then it takes a couple frames for the next column, and then the next column. So you can see we got a lot further. That's like half of a block, 8 pixels further before it loaded that we found Beakula tile. So when you despawn Beakula, you have to be going at least speed 12, which is not full speed, but I think that's half speed, half of your full speed. And the way the timing works out is if you go forward 1 frame at a time, then, I went too far. If you go forward 1 frame at a time, you'll see that column loaded. So as soon as we see that, we have 1 frame to press crouch stab, and then you can see it's still, if you look right here, our speed, that high number is actually negative. That's how they represent it in 8 bits. So it went high, which means that we're already moving backwards. I input B this frame, and it's already bouncing me even before you see what's happening. So it's loaded that next column. We have to hold right, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we down stab, and as we frame forward, you can see it's loading those columns. But this number down here, that number 2, means we are moving left. That's what happens with link feet, so it's loading right, but moving left, and I think that has to do with why it doesn't end up spawning Beakula. And so once we do that, we got the despawn. So it's one of those things where the speed is not that important. You just have to be going at least a certain speed, but the stab itself is frame perfect. But you can start from here, anywhere that there's enough room to gain speed, because you have to be able to tell it to, you have to keep ahead of the loading. Otherwise, by the time you get there, Beakula spawned because we didn't bounce backward. So that's basically it. You can do anything you want. It seems like there is a difference between whether you go from the left or the right. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I think it just has something to do with which part of the buffer gets kind of preloaded before you get into the room. All of the strategies I have been using, I got to work from entering on the right side. So you just carefully stab those. We're going to save the state here, and then run in. And I think because I enter on the left, it's going to do a different thing. So that's the first one. We're going to hit down stab on the next frame. And we got the despawn. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I do not know if the elevator actually makes a difference. Oh, you know what it actually, I think, happened? No, I don't know. But one of the things is that Beakula will come behind you once you get in here. but that's much easier than jumping over him. You'll just have to deal with that, I think. Unfortunately, you get one stab at the block, and if you miss it, you just didn't get it, you know? Once you get that far, it's either you did the trick right or you didn't, and unfortunately there's no way to tell until Beakula starts coming for you. Oh, let's see, what did I just say? I was going to explain something else later. Well, now we'll never know. Let's see, going a certain speed. Oh, right, okay, so you have to hold right. So let me show you what happens if you don't hold right during the despawn. So we're waiting for that. Oops, went too far again. We're waiting for that first column. And we see it. So if I hit down stab right now, that's the correct setup. So if I was holding right, I would get the despawn. But what happens if I don't hold right is I bounce backwards, and you can see over here, it's loading the tile behind me now, because I moved far enough back to the left that it's loading another part of the screen, and I think once that's happened, I'm kind of stuck. I have to go back into that area, and then that really does spawn Beakula. So I think when you're bouncing left, it's only really checking to the left to make sure, because you're going that direction, why would it spawn anything to the right? But if you really are going to the left, and it really does load things to your left, that's what it was trying to do in the first place, so when you turn back around and go to the right, it catches up, and that it just isn't useful there. So I tried, like I said, nudging forward and kind of bouncing off the way you do link feet, but something about the speed just changes how quickly they update the tiles, so you do have to be going at speed. As far as I can see, this is the kind of the simplest setup, but it is frame perfect, so you can start from kind of anywhere, but you just have to stab at just the right time to get the despawn. So that part I'm going to leave up to you. I'll see if I can find more easier ways, but right now that seems a lot easier than trying to break 3 blocks all exactly at the same time.